the Big 89 WLS. Andrea Darlas in for Steve Cochran, and I am so excited and so thrilled, I know you will be too, to talk to a radio legend, the Hall of Famer, my friend, I should say WLS legend as well, Garry Meier, the Gear Force. How's it going, Gary?
AD in the AM on the 50,000 watt blower. Let's go to the phone.
Oh, I love you. Texts are coming in. Phone calls are coming in. Everybody loves their Garry Meier. How are you?
Call me, AD, call me Getty Meier.
Getty. I'm going to call you Getty Meier, just
call
like
me Getty.
Getty Lee. Did you know that? I didn't know that Getty Lee's, that's how he got Getty Lee.
That his parents named him something they couldn't pronounce? Yeah, that is pretty odd.
And now, you got a great podcast, by the way. Tell everybody what you're up to nowadays.
I'm up to trafficking in the nonsensical BS of the world, sans politics. I'll leave the politics for you people. And we just have a good time because at this point, all you want to do is cry all day. Hey, I got to ask you a few things. Are you busy or do you want to go talk about cicadas or something? I got a lot of stuff here.
I love the cicadas.
Okay. Is the radio station still in the Jussie Smollett district of the city on DuSable Columbus Drive?
No, it's at DuSable Lakeshore Drive, but yes, we are still in the Jussie Smollett Streeterville subway MAGA area of the city.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, that's a nice area. Used to be a nice area, but is there any nice? I have a few things that I want to ask you, and let's start with the graffiti on the Eisenhower, that stretch that goes for 2-3 miles. And just covered, and it's so elaborate. Do the gang members sit there with their easels and berets and just work all day on that graffiti? How does that keep happening?
You know, I agree with you. I see that on the Kennedy. I see it on the Ryan. I'm always amazed at how they, especially when they're on the overpass. I mean, you have to be hanging there, either upside down or suspended by something or someone.
And that stretch on the Eisenhower, I had a suggestion that they dig a 6-foot trench along that wall. So at the most, you just see the top of the puffy letters.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, because they have a free reign with that, and nobody seems to want to take care of it anyway, but let it happen, and that doesn't seem right. So that's my solution.
Don't you think it takes a long time for those graffiti?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Are they sitting there with their big paint palettes and just spending all day, and nobody notices, nobody cares?
I think it's Kansas spray paint. But it's okay, Gary, because the spray paint's not allowed to be sold in the city of Chicago. So that's going to fix everything.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The most costly ticket that I've ever purchased was a speeding ticket for going 100 on the Dan Ryan. That was very expensive.
Thought you were going to say a red light camera ticket.
Is this a busy travel weekend? Because I don't hear anything about that.
Nick? Busy travel weekend?
Yeah, today's going to be
Nick, is it a busy travel weekend?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Of course.
Right. Because we wouldn't figure that out anyway.
Right. Unless we told you. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring an umbrella. It's raining.
Yeah. Is it busier than the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Right.
Yeah, I want to know. I don't
Debatable.
know. Hey, I have to say, this is a way for the McCaskies to stop schlepping around asking people to give them a stadium. Why don't they take about 3 or 4 of those McCormick places and put them together and make that the new stadium? What do they have, 10 or 15 of them over there?
They got at least, but the problem is they're on different sides of the street. They're on different sides of Lakeshore
Drive.
Okay,
you connect them. Do whatever you have to do. Much cheaper. They're not using half those buildings most of the time, and you could call it McCaskey Place, and everything's done.
I like that. You can connect them with like a
pedestrian bridge. This is embarrassing to watch this family asking for free stuff, and then during the game, you see Virginia McCaskey up in the skybox eating peanut brittle and drinking hot chocolate, and about every 10 minutes, somebody comes up to her. It's a football game, Nana. Football. Really, the optics of this, just sad.
I miss you, Gary.
I miss you. How are you?
I'm good. And you have a big hello from my mom. For those who don't know, my mom has the biggest crush on Gary. And literally would tune in when I was working with you to hear Gary, not me.
Smart woman. You come from smart DNA, AD. I'll tell you.
Thank you.
And And the Teen Takeover, is WLS sponsoring one of those this summer? I love that promotion.
I'm going back to Nick in the newsroom.
Oh, the Wildings? Sure. We'll pronounce.
Yeah. Here's how that works. You're walking down State Street and somebody comes up to you and says, "What radio station do you listen to?" And if you give the wrong answer, they punch you in the face. That's a brilliant promotion. And if you're going to barricade yourself somewhere, barricade yourself in a Portillo's. They got the good eats.
Oh, man, no kidding. That chocolate cake shake? I ordered,
that's a smart barricade.
Gary, I ordered one of those in our old neck of the woods one time. I told Nick Gale this yesterday, and I said, I ordered a chocolate cake shake, and she handed it to me and literally said, "Here's your diabetic coma."
Nice. That's a good
One
clown
of the
name,
workers.
too.
Yeah.
Diabetic coma, that's a good clown name.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're going to go to Red Lobster this weekend and plop down $20 and eat your body weight in shrimp?
Love the all-you-can-eat shrimp.
I love when you go into the shrimp sweats, AD.
Trust me,
Hey, they're
I've had
changing the
those.
name to Red Lobster to operating in the Red Lobster.
That's
you
probably
hear that?
true. That is true because they're going under. Exactly.
What else you got for me? What's going on?
All
What
right,
do you need?
I have questions for you too. I have there's a lot going on in the city council, the state of Illinois. Lawmakers are in session this week,
good.
and our
Are they in session? Is it the busiest weekend?
It's the busiest weekend. It's the busiest weekend. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I know this is the type of story that you love. We talked about this yesterday. This was a proposal in Springfield to change the term offender to justice impacted individual. And we were having a little fun with that yesterday. It actually passed, Gary. It passed the House and the Senate and is now going to the governor. So we can no longer call offenders in a particular program in the state of Illinois offenders, justice impacted individual. And we wanted to get your take on that.
Well, look at the graffiti all over the place. There's your answer. They're not doing anything that counts. They're spending time on this nonsense. Why are we so? I was talking about this on my podcast. The victim is now the person that is under the microscope as opposed to the person who's doing all of the crap, where you have, remember those car thefts that were happening all the time?
Oh, yeah.
And somebody from the police department in Chicago came out and said, well, Kia and these other car makers are making it too easy to steal the cars. And I'm thinking, well, do they have locks on the doors?
Right.
Do they have keys that you need? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's the car owner and the car manufacturer's fault that they're being stolen because the thief does what it does. She does. And it's the victim's fault for not what? It's always and we're just kind of embracing the fact that we don't want to offend these ne'er-do-wells, these ditch rats.
These
I don't get it.
justice impacted individuals.
Yeah, okay. And a person of interest. Remember when we went to that? They're not a suspect. They're a person of interest.
Person of
Oh, they're
interest.
interesting now. They're a person that's interesting.
We
Really,
have,
somebody needs to, as they said in Scent of a Woman, somebody needs to take a flamethrower to somebody here.
it's this weird sense of reality that we're living in.
Oh my God, the time wasted on this, and I could tell you a dozen other things right away that need help in this city, but they're, well, we'll get around to it.
I want to hear. I want to hear, and we have more questions for you, and I know you can answer all of them too because you are the great Garry Meier. Hang on the line.
Weekend.
Busiest weekend. Hang on, Gary. We're gonna have
What's up, everyone?
more with Garry Meier on the Big 89 WLS. We continue our conversation with the legendary Garry Meier. This year, WLS celebrating its 100th anniversary. 100 years of rich history. Part of that history is, of course, Garry Meier. Gary, what are some of your fondest memories of WLS AM?
I did 2 tours of duty at the 50,000 watt blower. We lost a lot of good people over those years. Yeah. It was rough, I got to tell you. And,
right.
I wouldn't wish it on any of you. Well, you're already in it again. But
yeah.
What kind of God would put your boss in traffic like that? That's just hard to hear.
I know. I know. I feel bad. And she's calling in reports, though. And she loves
that's
you, by
great.
the way.
Here's what I'm asking. Usually these radio management types for a holiday weekend, they'd be off after Tuesday. Why is she coming in?
No, she's at, you know what? She is hands-on. She was taking the tour yesterday of the United Center because we're hosting the DNC. I know you know that.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Board up your windows now.
Yeah, really.
Exactly right. Get a good deal on that. Gary, you're getting a ton of texts. Glenn, your buddy from Evanston, says Garry Meier would literally have me in tears from laughing so hard. He's the reason why I started listening to AM radio 15 years ago.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that. And I just want to say, change your Lumi application and do-rag every 20 minutes this weekend. If I see one more armpit on television, I'm going to shoot the TV like Elvis.
Did you see that Old Spice now is following, and they've got a spray for men?
Yeah.
Nah.
And I know we all have odors, but geez, I feel like I've really gone into a mummy stage.
Yeah.
Old Spice, that's some good stuff, though.
And they're trying to show genitals. We're very close to showing genitals. That they do that one. It's not Lumi. It's another one where there's a woman. She shows her armpit, and then she goes, "Oh, it's good for my armpits." And then she pulls open her sweatpants and points, and they block that out. Thank God.
With a bar?
Huh?
With one of those bars, those black bars?
I don't know
Who
what
wore
you're
it
putting
best?
down there, but geez, how about a shower? Nothing like a
man.
good shower.
I love you. Honestly, I miss you. I love working with you. The listeners love you.
I love radio. I'm sorry to see that it's, well, I don't want to, you're working on radio, but we all know that it's taken a turn over the years. And I just wish it would try to come back in a direction that I would enjoy listening to. Aside from WLS, I, of course, I'm a big fan of the Nick Gale Experience. And when he tells me this is the busiest weekend of the year, and
right?
and Tom and Mike behind the glass there pushing the buttons and feeding you all the information about how our government is going to hell in a handbasket. You can't beat that. I understand. I just like getting on one of these big 50,000 watters and flapping my soup coolers, because that's what I came up with. I've been doing this a long time, and I just have a soft spot in my heart for radio.
Yeah.
That's what when I was a kid, AM radio, that was our iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
That
I'd be
transistor radio.
Yeah, I'd be in the car listening to Wally Phillips with my dad.
Yeah, that must have been torture. But whatever you did coming up in those days, it was all centered. The conduit was radio. Those people on the radio were cool and told you everything that you needed to know. And you didn't have to look at pictures of animals doing weird stuff. And that's all it did, was entertain. Just one purpose. And that's what I love doing when I get on a radio station.
Well, this will make you happy too, and I really mean this. You're incredible at what you do. You're an incredible talent. I've known you a long time, but you reach over generations. And I don't know if you've ever met our associate producer, Miranda. She's absolutely wonderful. She was thrilled you were coming on, and she said,
I worked with her when I filled in last year.
She's wonderful. She's in awe of you. So you're hitting the young generations. They are listening to you. She's 20-something. We'll call her 20-something because she's got the mind of a 40 or 50-year-old, but she's brilliant. She said, ask Garry about Disco Demolition. So you are reaching the young people, and that's got to make you feel good, Garry.
When you hit a Gen Zer, you've hit pay dirt, because that demographic, I don't know what is going on. They seem to be into everything and then nothing, and they don't want to own anything, and they just want to live in a van down by the river. I am glad that I can hit that tone with that generation too, because as you go through this, you mentioned something that's, say, and the Gen Zers, you say something that's older than 3 months ago, they have no idea what you're talking about. What's that? I don't know, because there's so much information coming into their noggin.
So much, yeah.
They can't digest it. And I'm so glad that I lived a good part of my life without the internet, because it's not a permanent record of all the nonsense that I was doing. And I mean that, I don't mean illegally, but I mean going through the radio chain and getting my chops down when I was probably pretty bad. There's no record of that, thank God. Now you have a record of everything.
Everything. It's video, it's audio. I just have a few more minutes with you, but I want to, ahead of the Memorial Day weekend, one of the best segments you
Busiest
ever
weekend.
did. Busiest weekend. One of the best segments that you ever did, Garry, was with your dad. And I just want you to spend a couple of minutes here talking about the recordings that you did, and you used to play that back every Memorial Day and Veterans Day weekend. It's just so important. Talk a little bit about that and how much that meant to you.
Quick story, about 40 years ago, I go to my parents' house, walk in to the kitchen. My father's sitting there, and he's got, and everybody had one of these, that little Panasonic tape recorder. And he said, I just taped something and I want you to hear it. And he played a recollection of a battle he was in on Christmas Eve during World War II. And I'm riveted by this as I'm listening. And he says to me at the end, could you and Steve, my former partner, play this? And I said, I'd love to play it. I took it, played it for Steve. And he said, oh, yeah, we have to play this. This is very powerful. And we did. And the reaction was very intense because he goes through in 13 minutes all of the hell of war. And it's not a video game. It's not just something you see on the news. There's real collateral damage. And we kind of don't pay attention to how deep it goes and how long it goes. We didn't have PTSD that was analyzed and known back then. So these guys all came home and had to live with these nightmares. And I remember one time somebody slammed a door at the house and he was in bed and he jumped up. He thought somebody had let off a grenade. And the other time that happened, he had a heart attack. He's being wheeled into the ER. And he turned to my mother and said, do you have the hand grenades? He thought he was in battle again. That's the PTSD that was never treated for that group because they didn't know.
Right.
And when I play this, I play it on my podcast every year. It's every time I hear it, it's so chilling.
It is.
And he was only about 20 years old when he was in those battles. And it's really something we need to think about with our military and those that come home. We need to take care of them better. You always hear how they're begging for money for their medical and whatever, and it's just sad.
It is. And you play that on your podcast. Tell everybody, too, where we can listen to you, where we can get your podcast, because you and Leslie Kyling just do an amazing job, and I love hearing you guys on the podcast.
Yeah, she's a great part of the show, and it's at GarryMeier.com, GarryMeier. And yeah, that's all I want to do. You know me, I don't have an agenda, Andre. I like to have a good time because it's a short dance and we're all doing this nonsense. And why? Let's go. Have a good time. There you go.
Well, thank you,
one
Garry.
more thing.
Yeah, please.
Have you been down the corridor from Midway to the Stevenson? I got to ask, I haven't been through Midway lately, and I'm just checking. That was one of my favorite things to keep an eye on. We've got to keep the corridors from the airports to downtown clean because that's what a lot of people see for the first time. That's their impression of the city. Quick story. I come out of Midway, coming down Cicero, and when you turn up onto the Stevenson, first of all, people were living under that overpass. Mm-hmm. That's not a good look. But there was a dead raccoon lying on the sidewalk one time in the middle of summer, belly up, and I thought, they got to have people patrol this area. You're coming in from Kansas City, and this is your first impression, a dead raccoon.
Right.
And I thought, at least put a sign in the dead raccoon's paws, welcome to Chicago. Something.
That's the least they could do, right?
Yeah,
Garry,
before the graffiti got sprayed on it.
Exactly right. Garry, I love you. You are the best. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for all that you do and have done for Chicago radio.
Thank you. I'm going to go drifting this weekend. It's the busiest weekend.
Busiest weekend. We love you. That's the great Garry Meier. Check out his podcast. He and Leslie Kyling do an awesome job. We love Garry, and you can hear that full interview with us. We'll keep that on our website, WLSAM.com.